Sometimes the medium you choose to work in actually affects the composition you make or the images you make. For example, if you look at these two photographs, they're quite similar. I used to head out with a paintbrush or a sketchbook and draw nature in the past. Now I tend to photograph nature more and come back and paint it later in the studio. But one thing I've found pretty remarkable is just how different the images I create are, depending on whether or not I'm sketching from life or shooting life. This image here seems very much like the kind of composition I would go for if I had a pen and paper and wanted to set down and sketch something out. If you look at the image, there is a clear triangular thing. This is a very common compositional element from the Renaissance eras when they would use a triangular form in the center for the overall composition. If I were to paint this in the studio, I would probably make these elements a little more prominent and kind of darken the background somewhat and, vary the contrast to kind of step it down. But, this to me seems very much like a painting composition. This one strikes me very much more powerfully as a photograph. You've got sort of balanced elements on the left and the right. You've got a clear marker of the plant on the left hand side with the flowers. Because they're bright white, they tend to pop forward against you, whereas the tree on the right, it's more of a neutral middle grays, so it doesn't pop nearly as much. So it creates very clear sort of primary and secondary focal points. And then the wash of green in the background, instead of being consistent, has that dark patch in the center. So it creates some visual depth through light that lets you know you could sort of crawl in there. And to me, this just seems much more interesting as a photograph, whereas the first image as a photograph I think is quite bland and generic and uninteresting, and it just doesn't work. As a painting, this is exactly the kind of composition you want. I think this is one of the reasons why so many artists today still sketch from life instead of just working for photographs, because I'm not sure if the medium is the message, but the medium certainly shapes the way you choose to deliver that message. Try applying this to your own work. Go out, sketch from life, photograph from life, look at the images, see if you can notice a difference, because I certainly can.